Are you trying to get your head around pathogens and immunity for your GCSE Biology exam? Well, you're in exactly the right place. This is your super-fast, laser-focused revision session on communicable diseases. Let's lock in these key facts.
Okay, so we're going to power through 5 key areas, straight from the syllabus. We'll start with the absolute basics, then we'll meet the pathogens themselves. After that, we'll see how our bodies fight back, check out the medical help we've invented, and finally, take a look at how we actually discover and test new drugs. Let's get into it.
Right. First up, you've got to know your enemy. What is it that makes an infectious disease, infectious? Well, it all comes down to these tiny things called pathogens.
So this is the big question, isn't it? The one you absolutely need to nail. What are these invaders, and what are they actually doing inside our bodies that makes us feel so rubbish?
Here it is. This is a core definition you have to know for your exam. A pathogen is simply a microorganism that causes an infectious disease. And you need to remember the 4 types: viruses, bacteria, protists, and fungi. Honestly, just listing those 4 could bag you an easy mark.
So how do they get around and actually do their damage? Well, spreading is pretty straightforward. Direct contact through water or through the air. But how they cause harm, that's a really crucial difference. Think of it like this. Bacteria are like tiny vandals, running around releasing poisons or toxins that damage your cells. Viruses, on the other hand, are hijackers. They have to get inside your cells, take them over, and use them to make millions of copies of themselves. Eventually, they burst the cell open to escape and spread. 2 totally different game plans.
All right, let's build on that. Now we're going to look at the specific diseases the syllabus wants you to know. Think of this as a most wanted list for pathogens. First up, the viruses. There are 3 you need to know. You've got measles, with that classic fever and rash which spreads when you breathe in droplets from coughs or sneezes. Then there's HIV, which is so dangerous because it attacks the immune system itself. It's spread through bodily fluids. And finally, an example from the plant world, tobacco mosaic virus, or TMV. It creates that discolored mosaic pattern on leaves which stops the plant from photosynthesizing properly and really stunts its growth. Now for the bacteria. Salmonella. That's your classic food poisoning. You get it from contaminated food, and the nasty symptoms like fever and cramps are caused by the toxins the bacteria release. Then you have gonorrhea, which is a sexually transmitted disease. The key exam fact for gonorrhea, though, is that new strains have appeared that are resistant to antibiotics, making it way harder to treat. Remember that.
And to finish our lineup, a fungus and a protist. The fungus is rose black spot, which, you guessed it, causes dark spots on rose leaves. But the one to really focus on here is malaria. It's caused by a protist, and this is important, not by the mosquito. The mosquito is just the vector. Think of it as the getaway driver. It picks up the protist from an infected person and then injects it into the next person it bites. The mosquito isn't sick, it's just the delivery service. Okay, so we've met the bad guys. But the great news is, our body isn't just a sitting duck. We have a seriously impressive built-in security system. This is your first line of defense, the barriers that stop stuff from getting in. Your skin is just a fantastic physical wall. Your nose has hairs and mucus to trap any intruders. Your airways, your trachea and bronchia are lined with more mucus to trap pathogens, and these tiny little hairs called cilia that are constantly waving, sweeping all that gunk upwards, away from your lungs. And if you happen to swallow any pathogens, your stomach is ready with hydrochloric acid to basically dissolve them. It's a fortress. But what if a pathogen gets past those walls? Well, that's when the special forces get deployed. Your white blood cells. They have 3 killer moves. First, phagocytosis. They literally hunt down, engulf, and digest the invaders. They just eat them. Second, antibody production. They create these custom-made proteins called antibodies that are designed to lock onto one specific pathogen, marking it for destruction. And third, antitoxin production. They release other substances that cancel out the nasty toxins made by bacteria. So they eat them, tag them, and neutralize their weapons. Pretty cool.
Sometimes, even our amazing natural defenses need a bit of backup, and that's where modern medicine comes in, providing the reinforcements to help us win the fight.
So a vaccination is basically a training mission for your immune system. We introduce a safe version of the pathogen, one that's dead or inactive. Your body doesn't know it's harmless, so it launches a full-scale response, learning how to make the perfect antibodies to defeat it. But the real magic is the memory this creates. If the real, dangerous pathogen ever shows up later, your body already has the battle plan. It churns out the right antibodies so quickly that the invader gets wiped out before you even feel sick.
All right, let's clear up a really common point of confusion, and it's a favorite for examiners. You get ill, you might take some medicine, but what is that medicine actually doing?
And the difference here is massive. So really listen to this bit. Antibiotics are the cure. They go in and actively kill the bacteria that are causing the infection. Painkillers, on the other hand, just manage the symptoms. They'll help with your headache or bring your fever down, but they don't fight the pathogen at all. So one cures the disease, the other just makes you feel a bit better while your body does all the hard work.
Now, if you only remember one thing from this section, please make it this. Antibiotics only kill bacteria. They have absolutely zero effect on viruses. That's why your doctor won't give you antibiotics for a cold or the flu, because those are caused by viruses. And here's why that's a problem. Viruses live and replicate inside our own body cells. So it's incredibly difficult to develop a drug that can kill the virus without also killing our own cells, which is why antiviral drugs are so tricky to make.
So, that leads us perfectly into our final section. Where do these incredible drugs actually come from, and how on earth do we make sure that they're safe and that they actually work?
You know, a surprising number of our most important drugs originally came from nature. The heart drug digitalis, that comes from the foxglove plant. Aspirin was first developed from a chemical found in the bark of willow trees. And of course, the famous one. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, the first antibiotic, completely by accident from a mold growing on a petri dish. All three are great examples to have up your sleeve. Nowadays, drug development is an incredibly long and strict process. It all starts with preclinical testing. This happens in a lab, on cells, tissues, and then live animals, mainly to check if the drug is toxic. If it passes that stage, it moves on to clinical trials with humans. First, it's tested on healthy volunteers to check for safety and any weird side effects. Then, it's given to actual patients to figure out the best dose and to test for efficacy, which is just a fancy way of asking, does this thing actually work? And finally, before it gets anywhere near the public, all the results are peer-reviewed, scrutinized by other independent scientists to make sure everything is correct. It's a slow, expensive process, but it's absolutely essential. And that brings us to a massive real-world cliffhanger. We know how amazing antibiotics are, but bacteria are constantly evolving, becoming resistant to them. Our best weapons are slowly becoming less effective, and we know that developing new ones takes a very long time. So the final question is much bigger than any exam. With these new superbugs appearing, how are we going to win the next battle against disease? That's the challenge for the next generation of scientists. Okay, good luck with your revision.